Hey everyone, Zental here. I know it's been a while, but this video is about the difference between upgrading out of a large CPU bottleneck from the Ryzen 5 3600 with the Wraith stock cooler to the Ryzen 7 5700 X3D and Noctua NH U12S cooler. Just for some context, I also use 32GB of DDR4 3200MHz CL16 and an RTX 3060 Ti overclocked. Do keep in mind, in the after tests, I'm using a heavier encoding for recording, but it won't have made a significant difference in the results here. First up is a CPU intense game in Counter-Strike 2. You can note my settings as I run through them. Beforehand, I would get 162 FPS on average and 79% on the 1% lows. Capping my frame rate anything above 60 FPS would cause significant stuttering due to the 83 FPS or 51% disparity between the average and lowest. I would also frequently come close to thermal throttling, which would further decrease performance. Afterwards, I doubled my average FPS to 345 and significantly boosted my 1% lows to 160, which is still a disparity of about 53%, but I could cap my frame rate at 144 FPS to ensure perfectly smooth frame times, or cap it to 240 and deal with the same kind of frame drops. Secondly is the CPU stress test to represent productivity workloads, Cinebench single and multi-core stress tests. The Ryzen 5 3600 managed 1121 on single core and 8518 multi-core. It was thermally throttling the entire time. This means that the AMD stock cooler is not good enough for the CPU anymore. For the Ryzen 7 5700 X3D, I got 1268 single core and 13,017 multi-core. It's about what you'd expect from a gaming focused CPU with lots of level 3 cache and slower core clocks, which is still an improvement over the Ryzen 5 3600, but it's more noticeable on multi-core as it never thermally throttled with the Noctua NH U12S, unlike this struggling AMD stock cooler. Lastly is Black Ops 6's canned benchmark to represent a GPU bottlenecking game. I use medium to low settings on nearly everything, but I'll show you on screen. The Ryzen 5 3600 was still the bottleneck, averaging 106 FPS and a 1% low of 79. This is passable for most players, but still isn't comfortable. After upgrading, there wasn't much change in the average FPS, but a decent boost in the 1% lows, contributing to an all-around smoother experience. But unfortunately, the 3060 Ti is coming to the end of its glory days, and it becomes the clear bottleneck here. Overall, it was a worthwhile investment for the applications and games I generally play, which is CPU bound and don't tax the GPU much, although for most gamers, a GPU upgrade would also be needed to push more frames in today's AAA games. It's pretty simple. But that's about it, to be honest. Apologies for the really inconsistent uploads and streaming schedules and things like that last year. Who would have guessed a person like me would be pretty inconsistent, but things are on the incline as I've changed quite a few things on the Twitch side and on the Windows side just to make sure that everything is easier to get on and do, and that the standards for everything has been lowered, so I'm not as much of a perfectionist every single time I try to do something, because that was my problem. I would try to make something, whether that be a video or new branding, things like that, and I would chuck it all away because it had slight imperfections. And when I'm this new to a craft like video recording or streaming and things like that, I really shouldn't be expecting the world. But hey, that's it. I won't be doing another video like this as I generally don't build computers much nowadays. But I do hope to see you in the next one, which will hopefully be sooner than 6 to 8 months. Peace.